Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us and welcome to this week's Halloween version of our live Thursdays at Noon community event. But first, and most importantly, we acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe peoples in the Williams and Huron Treaties areas. We recognize the long history of First Nations and Métis people on this land and show respect to them today. We acknowledge our neighbors, the Wata Mohawks and the First Nations of Moose Deer Point, Shawanaga, Wasauksing, Magnetawan, Henvey Inlet, Nipissing, and Doquis. Now, for something a little bit spooky. Everybody loves a good ghost story, particularly in the week of Halloween. So ghost stories, both real and imagined, are our focus today. We will delve into one of Muskoka's most famous haunted destinations for those hoping to interact with a ghost, Bracebridge's Inn at the Falls. Over the decades, many visitors and staff at the inn have said it is home to several ghosts that just don't want to check out. The inn's owner, Mina Hu, joins us to share her experiences and answer your questions today. In Parry Sound, there have been ghost stories shared about hauntings at the museum on Tower Hill. To tell us more details, we'll be joined by curator Nadine Hammond. Also joining us is Gravenhurst native Connie Chittick, who is the author of a mystery novel with a supernatural twist that takes place in the fictional town of Pinedale, Arizona in 1965, which is modeled after her hometown of Gravenhurst. So let us begin today. Mina, hi, thanks for joining us. So what is going on at the inn?
What is going on at the inn? Do you want to hear from right now, dated back to, where the inn started, or there are many things written about the inn, many books written about the inn. I just was refreshing my memory about, the handout we give out to people about the haunted story at the inn. So there are few names that people hear and saw very often. There is one in our handout I still don't have the courage to look at it yet, which is people saw Judge Mahaffey's face in the parlor in our reception area. One of the pictures shows actually his face there. I still don't have courage to look at that picture exactly, but we have shared with many guests. They find it really interesting, and then they do see Judge Mahaffey's face on that picture just appear in the middle of air.
Now, have you met a ghost since you've taken over the inn?
I haven't, but I do have housekeepers, and one of the front desk agent experienced it after we bought it. So last year, right now you see the background is the pub at the falls. So we have opened it in just 2 weeks ago, so it's brand new. But last year when we bought it, the downstairs wasn't used, and our front desk agent, Sarah, actually happens to be the same name as the one of the spirit at the inn. So Sarah was downstairs looking for things, and then out of nowhere, she heard honey. But she was there by herself, and she thought I was upstairs calling her, and she was like, that's weird. This is so close to me, but nobody around me. So she ran upstairs, nobody upstairs. So that's the first time we actually have people around me experience that. I do feel when I come to the inn at night, I do feel spooky, or like I don't see anything, but I'm always aware, feel like if I see anything, I won't feel scared. I'm always prepared, but personally, I haven't seen anything. However, the one we share the most right now is, so 105, the room is mostly have more activities. And then we call it the spirit room. Actually, people can book that spirit room just for that, that one room that have the most activity. And then one time probably a few months ago, one of the housekeeper, she was new to the inn and she was making the beds, and behind, she heard "get out" behind her, and then she just ran, run across the hallway, run downstairs, and came to the front desk area and said, I don't want to go back until somebody come with me. So that's the mostly we have heard.
Oh my gosh. Now, are you finding it hard to keep staff? You keep getting told to get out?
Actually, most of the, I was surprised that tone was used. What the story I heard most is very fun spirit. Like they don't scare people. They don't like make trouble for people. And sometimes one of the story that was passed around by the previous innkeeper was the spirit actually helped to put out really not pleasing guests, because the guests had made many trouble for the staff, and he come back, and when he was going to check out, he felt somebody kicked his back, but nobody's behind him.
Oh my
So
gosh.
we love those kind of spirits that help to maintain a positive environment at the inn.
Oh, that's so much fun. Now, did you know that it was haunted when you bought it? Was that a selling factor?
No, I don't know. When I bought it, after like my husband and I, when we come here, we actually heard it from the previous innkeepers. And then he said he talked to the spirit, one of the spirit, I think named Henry. So he actually talked to him when the innkeeper does work. And then sometimes he just asks him to stop, say, I'm busy right now, don't talk to me. Like I can. So I heard that story from them as well. I haven't met any spirit, but I just want to be prepared. If I met one, I won't be like shocked.
So whenever you come to work, you're like, okay,
Yes.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
It does feel sometimes, housekeeper or front desk agent appear in the office very quietly, and I turned back and I saw somebody stand there, like no movement. That does scare me, because I feel like, how did you come here? And then, but it turns out just be stuff, like the real person here.
Thank you. Nadine Hammond, so what are the stories about the museum at Tower Hill?
So we have a bell that was at the Parry Sound Central School, and it is supposed to have two ghosts of little girls attached to it. I've never seen them, never experienced their presence, although we do blame a lot of things on them. Something gets knocked over in the gift shop, it was the girls playing. I don't know much about it. I do know a former curator was the one that had the most intense experience with these girls, but I don't know we don't know anything about them. I wouldn't say that I'm overly sensitive in that respect. So they could be standing right in front of me and I would never see them. But it's fun talking about these ghost stories of who knows who is attached or what might be attached to some of the artifacts that we have up here.
So this is the bell from an old school.
Yes, from Parry Sound Central School. So that, if my geography is correct, is where what used to be William Beatty was where Parry Sound Central School was. Either that, it's in that general location. I can't remember the exact location. It was either where the building was or off to the side.
And the bell, what is the era of the bell? It's from, is it 19th century?
It would be, you're asking me questions I didn't look up.
I'm sorry.
I want to say either the 30s or the 50s. I can't remember the exact.
Okay. All right. So sometime in the 1900s. And
yeah.
And so they just say it's two little girls. Do we know of any kind of story of two little girls of that era that might have met a?
Nope. Nope. There's very, very little history. It was one curator met the girls they were very upset about an exhibit that was here. I believe it was a First World War exhibit, and there was some artifacts on loan, and they very specifically did not like one of the uniforms. They thought it was a very, very bad uniform and were haunting the curator, saying, "Get this out of our museum."
Oh, interesting. Interesting. So, hmm. Um, I I'm just asking myself a question. I wonder if
Yeah.
if we don't know if they're twins, if the girls are related to the bell or if they related to the uniform. Or maybe given the era of it, maybe something bad happened to their father in the war.
Yeah, I know, as I said, since it was not my personal experience with them, I'm going, this is probably fifth or sixth hand information over what exactly happened. But
Yeah.
from what the understanding is they are attached to the school bell, and they really didn't like whatever spirits came with that uniform.
So interesting. Okay. Thank you very much. And next we have Gravenhurst native Connie Chittick. Connie is in the West Coast now, but her novel is centered in Gravenhurst by a different name. Hi, Connie.
Hi, Pamela, and hello, everyone. Yes, my name is Connie Chittick, and I'm very pleased to be here today at your town hall and to talk about my recently published book, The John Street House. And although it isn't a ghost story, it is, as Pamela pointed out, a mystery with a supernatural twist. And some of you may know that I was born and raised in Gravenhurst, and I left to attend university and nursing school in Toronto in, let's see, well, I'm not sure what year, but eventually in 1978, I moved to Vancouver, BC area. And I had a 26-year nursing career at BC Women's Hospital, which was formerly the Grace Hospital. And then in 2012, I retired. And I always wanted to write a book called The John Street House. I lived in the John Street House in Gravenhurst for the first 11 years of my life. And since I moved away from Gravenhurst, I have been back many times. And on one of those visits, I told my partner, Rick, that my heart will always be with him in Vancouver, but my soul will always be in Muskoka. And I know that those of you who are living in the Muskoka Parry Sound area can relate to that sentiment. Rick and I traveled to Sedona several times, and that's where I got the other part of the inspiration for my book. There are a few chapters in my book that take place in Sedona in 1965. And the rest of the book is set in a fictitious town in Arizona called Pinedale. And that action takes place over a 1-month period in the same year. My book opens up with a reporter, Jackie Pearson, who moves from Sedona to Pinedale to try and discover what happened to her Grandma May, who was the housekeeper to the Catholic Church priest who lived in the John Street House. And Jackie strongly feels that something very mysterious happened to her grandma in the John Street House, which caused her to go mute and end up in a psychiatric hospital. And Jackie's new boss in Pinedale, Matt Milway, is the editor of the town newspaper, The Banner. His daughter, Kate, offers to help Jackie with solving the mystery. And Matt gets more and more distressed about his daughter getting involved in all of these events. And he begins to doubt whether Jackie is the right person to work at his newspaper. And despite all of that, Jackie and Kate and a few other characters continue. Do I need to stop?
No, go ahead.
Continue with their investigation, which culminates in the supernatural event that happens. And now my story has 2 mysteries to solve. So that's kind of what I'll say about the plot. That's not exactly what's on the blurb on the back of the book, but I thought I would offer that up. There are several references to the town of Gravenhurst in my book, the most obvious one of which is the John Street house in my book and the John Street house in Gravenhurst where I grew up. And in my book, I describe the house in detail, right down to the old coal chute doors. I don't know if any of you ever knew that John Street house, but anyway, that's where it was. Also, another reference is I have 2 newspapers in my book, and one of them is called The Banner. The other newspaper is in Sedona, and it's called the Sedona Scoop. And Pinedale did have a prisoner of war camp in World War II, as did Gravenhurst. And this fits directly in with the supernatural event that happens, which of course I can't tell you about that event. Also, the last tie-in to Gravenhurst is that both John Street houses had been Catholic Church manses in the past. Because when I grew up in Gravenhurst, they had built a new Catholic Church manse for the priest, and my father rented the John Street house, which had been the previous manse. And let's see now where I am, I'm sorry. None of the characters in my book are based on anyone that I knew, although I have used a few family member names. Writing this book, The John Street House, has been a labor of love for me and quite a journey over the last 5 years. And once I had it professionally edited and formatted, I self-published it on Amazon's KDP. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that any of your members might want to ask me. And I thank you for your time and your interest in my book.
Thank you, Connie. Thank you so much. So when we talk spooky in Parasol Muskoka, we often have those conversations with Andrew Hind, who's written a number of haunted Muskoka type books, and he couldn't be with us today, unfortunately. However, if you are interested in ghost stories, I would check out his stuff. And then we had a great relationship with Terry Boyle, who sadly passed on a couple of years ago. But I thought it would be terrific to revisit an article that we wrote with Terry in 2009. And it was about touring Parry Sound's haunted history. Despite the warm summer night, it seems colder up here on the lawn of the courthouse where the Parry Sound Jail once stood. The stories say many people have died here, hanged for their crimes, or unable to bear the isolation and desolation of jail, ending their lives. Their spirits are said to haunt the courthouse, says Terry Boyle, leader of the Haunted Historical Tour of Parry Sound. Terry was an author and host of the television show Creepy Canada. If you hold your hand against the wall of the building, some can feel the misery that pours forth. Is that courthouse is still there, right? Okay, so if anybody wants to go, try touching it and let us know if you can feel the misery. I had a person on the tour a couple of years ago who put her hand on the wall of the jail and started weeping, said Boyle. Some people are sensitive to that. He had at that time in 2009 been running his Parry Sound Ghost Tour for 10 years, a looping walk around town that was complex and chilling as the stories he weaved while wandering through the downtown streets. The tour started at the 100-year-old Trestle Bridge that floats over the mouth of the Seguin River. A longtime symbol of Parry Sound, Boyle quickly reveals a chilling side to its history. He suggests that many deaths happened on the bridge, either sadly, deaths to suicide, children playing chicken with the train, high school kids who believed the water was deep enough to jump from the bridge. The ghosts apparently still hang around. In a parking lot nearby, he said there was an Indigenous woman who was sometimes seen wandering, likely going to or from a nearby trading post documented in local history books as Bob's Point. There's a trading post called Bob's Point. And what else did he talk about there? Sometimes people are able to move through other dimensions in a sort of time travel, he said. It remains a mystery. He recounted the story of a family visiting the area from Scotland in the 1880s, and a mother's worst fear was realized. A young son sees boys playing on the logs across the Seguin River. He tries to do the same and drowns. His father built him a coffin, and the devastated mother refused to leave her son, and so the family decided to stay in Parry Sound. And their last name was Logan. Another family headed north to start a logging company on the French River when they stopped for rest in a sheltered harbor. There, they met the Gibson family, who sold them their mill, land, and timber. The Beatty stayed in town, and in 1865, William Beatty laid out what would become downtown Parry Sound. Oh, so here comes, I guess, the spooky part. As dusk falls, those on the tour are encouraged to take pictures of the alleged haunted houses in Parry Sound. The Boyle says it presents inhabitants who haven't noticed any spiritual activity. Many believe the Moore House across the street is the site of an ancient Indigenous village that Boyle says still exists in a different dimension, and that there's spiritual activity also in the Beatty house, nestled in the hills along Belvedere Avenue, where the ghost of one of the William Beatties is believed to live. So I guess subsequent generations, they kept calling them William. Here and there at houses along the tour, cameras would pick up glints of what Boyle said were spirits, white, circular, seemingly unexplained blobs of white light called orbs, caught in one frame and then disappearing in the next. At first, as one catches one in the point and shoot, the crowd surrounds the screen in shock. They become more and more frequent, especially at the Parry Sound Courthouse in the former jail. The jailer's house once stood here, explains Boyle. An entity in the building used to levitate the dog. The dog, okay. Once, as the story goes, it picked up a cup of tea and it turned it over and dirt flowed out. The next morning, the grandmother who lived with the jailer and his family was found deceased. Boyle tells the brave tour takers to press their cameras against the glass of the basement of the courthouse. A young woman and her friend walk up to the window. Later, a grainy image appears in the bottom left corner of her cell phone camera. Look closely and you can see two black eyes, a mouth, and a face. That's the ghost of the malevolent spirit that lived with the jailer, says Boyle, and suggested that they will all sleep with the lights on tonight. So we miss Terry, certainly, in his telling of these stories. Mina, are you still with us?
Mina?
Hi.
Yes.
There used to be guided ghost tours of the inn. Is that still happening?
Yes, we are planning to bring it back right now. So I'm actually talking to Andrew Hyde and then different ghost tour organizers, some from Ottawa, to actually bring it back to the inn. We didn't do it during COVID for sure, but I know things are coming back, and then being in touch with different organizers.
And that sounds like a wonderful idea, particularly fun.
But I'm too scared to attend myself.
We do have a story about the inn from 2006 by Andrew Hind and his wife, Maria De Silva, where he says there are some places so warm and inviting that you just can't see yourself leaving in life or in death. Inn at the Falls in Bracebridge is just such a place, a quaint retreat, noted for its hospitality and said to be home to those several ghosts that just don't want to check out. Inn at the Falls is a 19th century home that has been converted sensitively into a characterful, cheerful hotel that is both charming and elegant, occupying a tranquil setting overlooking Bracebridge trademark waterfalls. And at the time, they talked about the numerous ghosts there. It was built, sorry?
Talking about that, now I do remember, I didn't see anything, but I see something on the picture I took.
Oh,
You might remember in lots of things written about the spirits at inn. One of them is called, the lady is called Sarah, and then she and her baby, like she was pregnant and she fell off the stairs, and both of she and her baby passed away. So one time I was
Mina has frozen for me. Has she frozen for others?
taking
Yes.
pictures. Are you still there?
Yes, there we go. You're
Yeah.
back. So she was
Yeah.
taking pictures.
I was taking pictures for our website, and then all other picture appear normal, but one of the picture in the bottom of the stairs, I guess where she kind of fell, there was a green circle there, just
Ah.
appeared on my brand new iPhone, but not on other pictures. So I showed that picture to several guests. One of the guests want to take a similar picture and then show her friends as well. And she said when she was actually taking the video, she felt somebody came down the stairs towards her, but there's nobody. So I didn't go back to look at the video. I'm too scared to look at, but that's what she felt.
So Andrew also said about the inn that it was built in the 1870s and became the beloved private residence for William Crosby Mahaffey, a powerful district judge. Because of Judge Mahaffey's influence, the home became a center for political, business, and social activity in early Bracebridge. In 1912, a sick Judge Mahaffey went to England for medical treatment. The history books say he never returned, dying far from his beloved home. Others aren't sure he didn't find his way back. Many people claim to have seen Mahaffey in the parlor and in our what was then the Fox and the Hound pub downstairs. It's called something else. And then that's that picture that you talked about. That looks like a picture of a man in a judge's gown standing by the parlor window. Sometimes Mahaffey isn't seen, but rather smelled. Despite the inn's no smoking policy, the odor of cigar smoke often distinctly lingers in the parlor, mostly late at night when the building quiets down. Is the judge relaxing in a favorite chair after a long day of meting out justice in the spirit realm? It certainly seems so. Whereas happy memories seem to tie Judge Mahaffey to the Inn at the Falls, a profound sense of loss and anguish anchors another ghost. She gazes out of second store windows, usually those in rooms 101 and 105, face etched in sorrow, her melancholy seemingly out of place in such a warm and inviting resort. In light of her tragic story, her unrelenting suffering seems understandable. In the 1930s, the once lavish manor had been abandoned and neglected for some time. A well-to-do man from Toronto by the name of Kirk purchased the grand old building and began restoration. He and his young wife moved in, and both were overjoyed with their new surroundings. But their idyllic existence seemed complete when it was learned Mrs. Kirk was with child. However, shortly before the child was due, restless and unable to sleep, Mrs. Kirk slipped from her bedroom and began wandering the house. She tripped and fell down the stairs. Both she and her unborn child did not survive. So that's probably Sarah. So her presence is often announced by strange phenomenon, and numerous people have seen or heard her spirit over the years. The greatest concentration of activities in room 105. Presumably, the master bedroom at the time. Ooh,
Wow.
creepy. Does anybody have any questions for our guests today? You can put them in the chat or raise your hand and I will look for a raised hand.
Put them in the chat. Where do you put them in the chat? I'm sorry.
Well, do you have a question, Connie?
There's my raised hand. Yes, it's sort of a question, but it's also a comment that you may be interested in. My question and the comment are the same because I'm not sure about this information. But when I was a teenager, one of the homes I lived in Gravenhurst was on Sarah Street. And I do believe that across the road, whatever that other street was, which is named a different name now, I think that's where the prisoner of war camp was. I also think that after we didn't need that POW camp anymore, I think there was a hotel built there by, I don't know who, but I think it was called the Gateway Hotel. So I don't know a lot of information. I don't know how many years it ran successfully as a business, but I do know that eventually they left and it wasn't, it was vacant. So here's the story that ties in here. And I think that information is true. The story is that all of us teenagers went down to that hotel, and I'm sure we were not supposed to go onto those premises because we heard it was haunted. And so everyone went down there to hang out in the hotel or around the hotel because of stories that, but probably the teenagers made it haunted. I don't really know. Does anyone know any information about that? So there's the question.
Okay, so I think the POW camp was Little Norway, and Gravenhurst has an ongoing relationship with folks from that nation. Sarah Law is with us. Sarah, do you have any knowledge of a ghost around that old motel or inn?
I do not, but I think Judy Humphreys from the Gravenhurst Archives would be a good resource for, more of the historical knowledge of those buildings and stuff. I have not seen a ghost in Gravenhurst yet, but I'm waiting.
But you're waiting.
I do believe that Little Norway, I believe, was a camp out by the airport, which is up around Bracebridge, I think. And then there was another POW camp, which I've actually called it the number in my book. And I'm sorry, I don't remember, like Camp 24 or 204 or 24. I think there were two separate camps. So I don't know, I guess I should have done some research if I was going to say this, but I thought I was trying to add it as another ghost kind of thing, right? But I do think that was the site of the other POW camp that then became the Gateway Hotel. Don't know how long it was.
Gateway Hotel. Okay,
Yes.
we'll have to ask Judy Humphreys
Okay.
for some information on that and see if we can get people to tell us those ghosty stories.
Okay.
So we do have a question in the chat. Do you personally believe ghosts are real? You don't have to answer that if you don't want to. Do we believe in ghosts? Connie, do you believe in ghosts?
I want to believe that there are ghosts, and here's where my belief goes. I believe that those people are not allowed to present themselves to us because we'd probably have a heart attack. I think that there's kind of a rule. This is what I'm thinking. When you die, this is where my head goes. A rule when you die that you're not allowed to show yourself to people. So then that would think that I don't believe in ghosts, but I do have to tell you that I believe in spirits. And when my sister passed away at a very young age, I was quite distraught, sitting on my bed one night crying. And I definitely felt my sister's presence beside me with her arm around my shoulder. That was my sister, Brenda Chittick. And so that's where my belief, yes, I do believe that there are people from the spirit world that do come and comfort us and are involved. I'm not too sure about all the ghosts at the inn. I'm hoping they're the nice kind, right?
Well, I think Mina's hoping that the same thing. Now, Mina, you've said several times that you're a little scared. So I'm thinking you do believe in ghosts. Do you?
I haven't encountered, I do believe spirit exists. It's kind of an energy, because we do have guests come over who can sense the energy. So they are, walking around, they feel different. Sometimes it's an angry energy. Sometimes it's like warming but confused energy. So they can feel it. I believe it does exist. It's just, I don't have that capability, that skill to sense that, but I believe they exist. I haven't encountered anything myself though.
We had a photographer, Bev McMullen, for years, who was a real ghost chaser. And she was convinced that the inn was super haunted.
Mm-hmm.
Nadine, what about
What's
you?
behind me? Did you see that?
Oh my gosh, was it a ghost?
I was really worried something will appear behind me, and then you all see it, and just me was talking, and I'm being prepared for that.
Okay, we'll let you know. We'll let you know, and we're recording it.
Don't let me know.
We're recording it, so we'll have it on tape. Nadine, what about you? Have you ever met a ghost? Do you think they're real?
I have never met a ghost. I would love to think they were real, because that would just make our world so much more fantastic. But I think deep down, I'm not a true believer, but like I love ghost stories. I love listening to like the history of it, the fascination of it. I think where if you could convert me to a believer, I would say that it is, I would believe in when somebody passes on, their energy lingers for a short period of time. So ghosts have a shelf life as well as we do. So that's where I think that I could definitely buy in that yes, there are ghosts.
Nadine, I feel kind of the same way. Like my rational brain wants to say, no, I don't believe in ghosts. But my own experiences are that when my grandmother first died, I felt her. I swear, I heard her voice saying, I have to go now. And then I got the phone call. And then the same thing with my mother. When my mother died, I had just left the hospital. And I felt this like whoosh, this physical feeling of something moving through me. And that was right when she had died. So I kind of feel that that's, I don't know.
There's just enough energy left to complete that unfinished business, to say goodbye.
Yeah. Judge Mahaffey, however, at the inn was a very powerful man, and he's not going anywhere.
I
So
want to meet him. This is an invitation to Judge Mahaffey's spirit that I am very excited to meet him.
I'm going to have to come by. I have to come by the inn and see if I can find him. I'll call him out, Judge Mahaffey. Okay, so we just have 7 minutes left, and I did tell our guests that they would have 3 minutes to wind up at the end. Mina, do you have anything else to share with us? Maybe tell us when we can come by.
Of course, the inn is always open. We didn't close during COVID as well. And right now you have this brand new pub that we've been working on this. So it's open October 15th. It's already been operating for 2 weeks. When we bought this place, we wasn't sure what we want to do for the basement, but then we talked to people in the community. The biggest wishes for us is for us to bring back the pub, because it was closed down 5 years ago and have so many people's memory here. So now we are here. We brought the pub back and then redid it all, but it's still we kept all the historical feeling of this place. So welcome to check us out. We are open Wednesday to Sundays, 5 to 9 p.m. Lunch hours will be open soon in November.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. And Nadine, when can we visit you at the museum?
The museum is currently open Wednesday to Saturday, 11 to 4. We are somewhat in between exhibits right now, but we are working diligently to get our permanent gallery open. We're hoping all COVID delays, but it's going to be soon. We're going to get it open soon.
Okay, COVID. Oh.
Yeah.
Connie, how can we buy your book?
Well, first of all, I would like to thank you, Pamela, for inviting me to join your town hall today and for everyone's interest in my book and the questions. The John Street House is available on Amazon in both Kindle and paperback format. And there you can see the blurb, which is on the back of my book. And there's a picture of myself and my Airedale Terrier in Sedona area. And you can look inside and read the 2 first chapters if you wish. And if you tap the little down arrow to the left of the word author, it'll open up a link to Amazon's Author Central, where you can read my full bio, where you would get a bit more information than I told you today. And I knew that I wanted to self-publish my book because I wanted to retain the rights to it. And I checked out Amazon's KDP and I went with them. And there was a steep learning curve over my Word document not fitting with my book cover. But once I realized that I needed to get a formatter to help me, all went well after that. And this is the result. And I just have one more thing to say. Watch for my next book coming out. I'm going to write a children's book, which is based on a poem that I've written, and it is going to be called Hello, My Name is Jill. And I want to thank you and take care.
Thank you so much for joining us, Connie. And thank you, everybody. It's just a few days to Halloween. Little ghosts and ghouls will be trick-or-treating door to door. I can't wait. It's so much fun. And I hope you all have an absolutely spooky Halloween. Next week, we are going to talk about, we did a story about a retaining wall that was built by a homeowner, a waterfront homeowner in the Huntsville area at a huge cost, and they may have to take it down because there are questions about whether it should have been built in the first place, and about the effect that these types of things have on our watershed. So we're going to talk next week about these types of waterfront retaining walls and what it means to our watershed. So I hope that we will see you next Thursday at noon, same link. Have a wonderful Halloween. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.